Reboot it!
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reboot It, Rewind. This is Ron Swallow, and we are live today. Today we're going to be talking about, Justice League. And since we are 100% live in real time, get active in the chat because we are watching and responding. Of course, I am joined by Ed Greer.
What's up? Put me on camera. Jesus.
Oh, yeah. You guys want to be on camera? Okay, here we go.
Hey, it's me, Ed Greer.
What's up, guys? Live. So you got to see me make mistakes. And we are also here with producer Cut Snyder.
Hello, this is Cut Snyder. We know that we know cinema better than anybody else. And so we're here to tell you what good cinema is and isn't, okay? So buckle up, everybody, because if you know, you know. Producer Cut Snyder.
Well, I'm glad you could grace us with your presence. Your slow-mo wisdom is very welcome here. So
Listen. Are you listening?
I'm listening.
Slow-mo is how you show something is important. It's called cinematic language. Learn it.
Oh. Hold on, let me write that down in my notes on my hand.
You're not writing. I see you not writing. If you want to be a filmmaker, you learn this stuff, okay? You learn it.
Oh, and we have our first comment of note. Bill, we are worried about you.
Guys, I'm worried about myself, okay? I'm worried about life. I'm worried about everything. So you're not alone. What up? We're here to talk Justice League, people. And
we are indeed.
And maybe, troll Snyder Cut fans. I don't know whose idea that would be, but we might.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I don't know.
And look, guys, Billy Business isn't with us today. He has decided that he has had enough Justice League talk for a little while. So he decided to skip out on this one. So we're going to be covering all of that sort of thing today. So, guys, I heard something big happened with Justice League. I don't know, like something just happened or something. I don't know.
What?
Well, okay, let's talk about the circumstances in which we watched the Snyder Cut, because we have to address it before we get started. So, where did you guys watch it? How did you guys watch it? How did you set aside the 5 days?
Listen, I took a day off of work. It was that important. And no, listen, I watched it Thursday night, late into the morning, I guess. I don't want to front here. I don't think we've ever said anything different. I was excited to see this. Mm-hmm. Now, I wasn't expecting it to be great, but I was very excited to see it. I was disappointed with the Joss Whedon version of Justice League. And also, if it's not readily apparent, if you've followed anything that we've done over the years, I am an old school DC kid with a great love of Superman over any other superhero. So, like, this is my jam. I just have some big issues with Zack Snyder.
Oh yeah. I noticed that on the YouTube post. I woke up to that one morning. I was like, "Oh, what's happening this fine morning?" And then Bill is going, "You guys," it's like you were like what's his name? Porthos, Kratos. What's his name? Paladin, the guy that we're following in this movie with the big horns. What's his name? Paragon.
Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf. Yeah, I know it was some 3-syllable word.
Wolf and Step. Wolf and Step.
Wolf and Step. That's funny. But the bottom line is, upon watching this, it was just like more of the same. I didn't feel like there was some reinvention of anything. I felt like it was more of the same and put in maybe a better order until the end of the movie, where the stuff just starts getting really it's Lord of the Ringsy throughout, but it gets super Lord of the Ringsy at the end. I'm like, damn, son.
Well, like,
Go ahead,
I think
Ron.
this was a really good, sad movie that just was literally 3 jokes throughout an entire 4-hour thing. And I don't know. It's just,
to be fair, Barry Allen was trying to make a bunch of jokes.
Yes.
Listen,
that's true.
Listen, here's the issue. If you had problems with the Joss Whedon Justice League, and your problem is that you didn't get enough of it, and it didn't have enough kill shots, and you just generally want everybody's problems to focus around how awesome they are, then this is the version for you.
Literally, what it seemed to be is like, if you wanted to see everyone solve their problems with nothing but fighting, and that if you wanted to see the good guys fight the bad guy and also be very sad the entire time, also basically make sure that you have almost zero hope. And in fact, when the hope that you have wakes up, he tries to murder you. If you wanted all of that, then you got it. That's what I saw.
Well, and my only big rant, and I'm really you know me trying to keep it brief, but I'm gonna really try. Okay, it's 6:23. Okay, go. I hate this concept that all of the JLA movies are about what Superman's gonna do. It's all about Superman. The whole point of the JLA is there are some things that Superman tries to solve and goes, you know what? Even I can't be everywhere, and even I ain't the smartest person in the world. So I gotta figure out how to, be the person beating up the space fleet while Batman's downloading stuff, while Homegirl is beating up some Gorgon, whatever. These things that he can't all handle by himself. The JLA is there to support Superman because there are things that are actually bigger than Superman that take a team. Nope, not in this continuity. It's all praising at the kryptonite, the Krypton Dong, where everybody's worshiping the Krypton Dawn. And it's just, I don't get that. I don't get the obsession with that. I don't.
If I could go one step deeper, there is a comment in the chat from superfan Suze Vera, and Suze Vera asks, is Bill's issue with Snyder or Snyder fans both? The answer is both, but let me focus for a second on Zack Snyder, because here's the issue. Yes to everything Ed and Ron said, but let's go one level deeper. Every single character in this movie, without exception, if they have an arc, that arc is either I am so awesome, but I won't admit it to myself, or I am so awesome, but the world just doesn't get it. And in Superman's case, he is both super awesome, and now, finally in this series, the world also thinks he's awesome, but he's dead. So that's the problem to solve with him. And I 100% see how Joss Whedon looked at what was on the page and what was in the negative, or I guess the digital intermediate, and went, what is this nonsense? Because this is a Ayn Randian wet dream. Every character is John Galt. Barry Allen's problem is that he is ultra powerful. He knows he's ultra powerful, and he just arbitrarily has rules that he won't be as powerful as he could be, but easily breaks those rules by just going, listen, guys, I can reverse time, and I probably shouldn't, but if you think it's cool, I'll do it. And they're like, yeah, man, it's cool. And maybe Aquaman's like, is this cool? But it turns out fine. And that's the problem that he solves. Cyborg's problem is that his dad is trying to tell him how awesome he is now, and he's not listening. And if he would just listen, he too could be awesome. In the Whedon cut, I'm not saying he made things better, but at least he identified those are weird arcs for these characters. Like, let's make Barry Allen hampered by something other than just sort of an arbitrary decision to not be as awesome as he could be. And so you give him fear of using his own power. I'm not cut out for this. I don't know how to do this. You guys battle. I don't battle. Cyborg, you actually give him an I'm a monster arc. Look at I'm a monster that needs to be resolved by everyone around him showing acceptance to him, not just him going, you know what? Maybe my dad's got a point that I'm freaking awesome. And it's just, I can't take any more of these movies where every character is a riff on John Galt from Atlas Shrugged. I just can't. Where your biggest problem in life is that everyone around you can't make peace with how damn awesome you are. That is not a story worth telling. Stop telling it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
No, we can't. We are going to do a Patreon episode where we go a little more in depth than we're doing right now, talking about this eventually. But I did want to mention this from Suze, which I think encapsulates much of what annoyed me while watching it. If you enjoy dialogue compromised of things no one would ever say, not even God-level heroes. Yes, there was a ton of weird one-liners where I was like, no one would ever say those things. This is not how you end a conversation. None of this makes any sense.
But look,
good.
Well, all I want to say is like there are a lot of nits to pick in this. I think the dialogue is one of them, but for the sake of this conversation, before we go to Patreon, I just want to float above that and say, like, I'm so sick of Zack Snyder trying to communicate his philosophy with his movies because it's a SHITTY for the algorithm philosophy. It's worthless. If you find something redeeming in it, fine. But this is what I tried to say in those controversial YouTube posts. Number one, this is not an underdog movie. It's got $400 million and 2 mulligans behind it. Number two, Zack Snyder tries to communicate really crappy objectivist messages with a fetishization of violence. That is not arguable. If you're going to like these movies, you got to own that. And if you're not willing to own that, you got to explain to me how that's off base. And I have yet to hear a compelling explanation because one doesn't exist.
Well, it's
so that's all I want to say.
Especially when the other tribe of this nonsense, frankly, somebody reading Moby Dick with a shawl over their shoulders and a blanket over their knees by a fire in a cabin somewhere thinks Marvel and DC suck. I think it's all juvenilia. Okay, so let's go by that standard. Now let's say that there is 2 tribes and it's Marvel and DC, and this is how they present themselves. Your alternative, if you don't like this ultra-violent and super individualist stuff, which both are comprised of, if you want to go the lighter route of that and have some jokes supposedly and have this goofy Disney reality, I just hate that. I hate the false tribalism in the fan base. I'm not even talking about the artist. I hate the false tribalism in the fan base. You don't have to be a shill for 1 or 2 of these giant entities that don't care about you. You don't have to, I just hate how when you talk to a DC fan about this stuff, sometimes they'll diss Marvel reflexively. And it's like, why? Worry about your own thing that people don't like. Don't say, well, why do you like this other thing? That's not the point. I don't like your thing. Let's talk about why I don't like your thing. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly. I just wanted to highlight that comment from Andy S. I'll have to watch later. Haven't seen the Snyder Cut yet. We are approaching the end of our Snyder Cut discussions, except to maybe bring it up as it relates to our actual Justice League pitch. But we had to get it out there. So, Andy, don't run away. We got a whole lot more rewind coming. I just wanted to make sure that we got that out for anybody who's on the fence at this moment. But yes, right. Ed, you're right on. And frankly, if you subscribe to Ed and Ron's Greatest Pod Patreon, you will hear us come down really hard on a recent Marvel property as well. So this is not about taking sides or being tribal. This is about let's identify what works and what doesn't in the work. And it's like nobody has a vendetta against Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder did not kick any of our dogs. Zack Snyder is not like some locus of our frustration. I'll say I don't like Zack Snyder because of Zack Snyder's work. That is where it begins and ends. I am more than willing to heap lavish praise on extremely successful directors. It's not about that. I am more than willing to watch and love violent movies. It's not about that. Zack Snyder in particular has problems that go beyond, well, should Superman be this way or not? That's not it. So let's be upfront about that.
Well, and it's also interesting to me that anyone says that Marvel isn't dark when they killed half of the universe. half of the earth was.
Ron's going back to tribalism. Hold on, Ron, reel it in. It's not compare and contrast. It's not compare and contrast.
That's what I'm saying is like, it's not about tribalism there. It's about like being aware. You're being tribal when you don't pay attention to both sides having darkness on their thing. Because Marvel sure is more light. I'm not going to argue that, but they also had a bunch of like sad, terrible things happen, and you have to have sad, terrible things happen in a story. Otherwise, there's no stakes.
Well, so all I'm going to say is I just have a little bit of trouble. I think this is probably as succinct as I can do it. I have a little trouble with a Justice League movie that isn't about collectivism.
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yep, agreed.
100%. And Ron, just to real quick address what you're saying, like the reason why it's not even about that, like comparing the amount of darkness or whatever, is because it's about the execution. And I had this conversation with another friend in the business. Like, I can 100% see, going back to BVS, Zack Snyder pitching the Martha moment and it going over gangbusters in the room. Because you pitched that as this whole movie, Batman is dehumanizing people and he can't see the inherent humanity in others. And we get to this moment where he's about to deliver the killing blow, and this man's last words is the same word as his own father. And it makes him think of his parents, and it makes him realize, oh my God, this is another human being in front of me. And it changes everything. And if I'm in the room, I got chills. But when you see it play out on screen, when the scenes are juxtaposed in such a way that, yes, you open with Negan from The Walking Dead saying Martha, and then you've got an hour and a half of other stuff that doesn't talk about anything like that, and then you get to the moment where Superman says Martha, and in context, it just seems like, are we just talking about the fact that they have the same mothers with the same name? What is going on here? It's the execution. Like, don't come at me with, oh, well, if you really stop and think about how this plays out, that's not how movies work. Movies aren't essays. Movies are emotional experiences that take you from one moment to the next in a linear fashion to build emotional arguments. Zack Snyder's movies don't do that. So on a filmmaking level, that's my problem with them too.
Fair enough.
And last things last, the reason why we have to talk about this is things hit people different ways. Where some of our experiences and some of our whatever we've been taught and how with our belief systems and stuff and our abilities to identify the messages in art and all these sort of things impact how we see things. And I do on my timeline and in real life, so many people there are boxes that aren't checked that they don't really care about. And it's not they're not wrong for not caring about these things, but they don't. Like you said, you have to own that I don't care about X, Y, and Z. But if you turned a couple things off, you can enjoy these things as spectacle. But I just find myself thinking about the actuality of it happening, the actuality of Batman needing the Joker for anything. It's just so funny.
Don't focus on that last scene because we will go off the rails.
I'm just saying, like, stuff like that. Like that to me shows a singular non-comprehension of how these toys even work. It's like when a kid comes over and starts playing with your toys, and they like take Batman and start digging a ditch. And they take Wonder Woman and attach her to the lawnmower. You know what I'm saying? And they take Aquaman and throw him in the desert. And it's like, dude, you are not playing with my toys right. That I get tribal on that front, So maybe that's a good entree to get into the pitch. I think overall our Justice League was us playing with the toys, and this is what we would do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to let's give final word on Zack Snyder to somebody who had the exact opposite reaction. Seattle KO. Martha scene gave him chills in the theater. Movie hasn't done that in a long time. Cool.
Yeah. I was just confused.
Ron, we're giving him the last word.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Let's do this. Let's talk about this reboot. This reboot was the climax to our connected universe of DC reboots, the DCEU. The episode featured a ton of disagreement, but it never spiraled into full Matrix or Twilight meltdown. Why do we think that is?
Honestly, I think the live aspect had a lot to do with it. You know, like I think it was the season finale of season 3. We had literally spent 5 previous episodes building up to this. There was just and we were doing it live. There was so much weight on this. Speaking a little bit for myself, like there were points in that episode where I was ready to get frustrated and say, guys, what are we doing here? And I think I probably ended up turning that into very manic energy on a rewatch. I was like, dude, did you snort blow? What is going on here?
As a member of the Scarface Society myself, not in real life, but on that episode, certainly.
Yeah.
Boy, the rewatch was a little rough for me because I was like, dude, you're just pitching a bunch of crap. You're so manic about like, but I gotta say, towards the end, we kind of turned. I say we, in our manicness, turned that energy to why isn't it good enough? I want to kind of get. I know we're going to talk about the pitch later, but a big crux of it was why isn't it just good enough that the Green Lanterns come and surround the planet? Why isn't that good enough? Why isn't that a good enough plot? And I just kept thinking, it isn't interesting to me. Our superheroes would beat the crap out of 15 Green Lanterns, easy peasy. I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't, and I kind of sense that if we're gonna have them fight each other, that was too small a way. That was too small of a villain, quote unquote, for Justice League to spend a whole movie trying to fight and conquer at some point just the other Green Lanterns. I just felt like it was too small for some reason, but that element was cool. So us trying to get that reconciled took 45 minutes, and I'll cop to my part in it.
Hey, no, listen, I mean, I was just going to say, we threw out a ton of just straight up false starts in the episode. Like we just kept trying to come up with like, what is the central conceit of this story? And I think we were all feeling that, Ed. We were all feeling like, sure, we could go down this road, but it doesn't feel big enough. It's not going to check all the boxes that we want it to check. And frankly, I felt that way about a dark side invasion, which is why I was glad we got that ball off the table with our Wonder Woman reboot. Because I feel like every Justice League media, since Grant Morrison wrote Rock of Ages in the mid 90s, has just focused on, well, the ultimate Justice League story is Darkseid invades and they have to fight him off. And it's like, no, number one, that's not true. Number two, that's not the best use of the New Gods mythology at all, if you go back to what Kirby intended with it. And number three, like, we've already seen it now. We saw it in the comics many times. We saw it an animated New 52 adaptation. We saw it in Justice League Unlimited, and the Superman animated series. We saw it in Smallville. Like, stop telling that story. So, an example, but I think we bumped up against a lot of those false starts where it's like, should we go this way? Should we go this way? And it's like, it's not enough.
Yeah, and also just I just felt like we didn't go off the rails because I think we realized that, like, you don't have to, once we really put it in our head that as part of the rebooted ethos, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do Hush as our Batman movie. That's not what we do. Once we decided to keep that up, I think that worked out pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before we move on to the next question, I just want Seattle KO to get the last word in, and that is, no, not chills in a good way. I hated that scene, Bill. And the Martha scene was the worst. All right. Just wanted to let him get his last words in on that one.
Oh, yeah. What guys... about this one? Boys! I wanted to get that.
Before we dive into the plot and casting, let's talk about how this one came about. Unlike most of the episodes, we had this one in our minds for a long time before we ever did it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I already said it, but we did Batman in season 1. Literally, it was the first episode we ever shot because we did it as a special at LA Comic-Con. And I remember us just, it was a twinkle in our eye at the time, but there was some talk about like, oh man, we could continue rebooting all of DC, and where would we go with that? So, I mean, literally starting in October of 2019, this idea of doing a Justice League reboot was on our minds, at least.
I want to say I got the most pumped up about the idea who's I want to say the Superman one. It might have been the Green Lantern. I mean, I just started getting pumped up as we did them because I just felt like we were building cool characters, cool situations. Our characters were individuals, but who could come together. Like I kind of saw that. I don't know. That's what kind of got me pumped up as we were doing it. How about you, Ed?
No, I totally agree with that assessment. We had made these guys real individuals with real strife. Like the fact that our Flash, I mean, we're going to get to the pitch, but our Flash is coming into this as a quasi fugitive, and he's not. You don't automatically just get to be a superhero after the events of your movie. You know what I mean? That was interesting as hell. And Superman had saved the world, and Wonder Woman had beaten up the guy who Superman fights in her movie. It just like we'd really set up some. I echo your point, Ron. We had set up some people who you want to see. How are they going to get together? Because they're all so complete. We weren't using this movie to complete anyone. That was a real in our headcanon, you know.
Yeah, I'll just say this too. It was interesting because I think coming out of doing Green Lantern and Superman back to back at the top of season 2 of Reboot It, that was where the idea really congealed. Like, okay, the end of this road has got to be Justice League. But coming into season 3, there was some talk about like, do we premiere with Justice League? And we had internal conversations, and Billy Business was one of the strongest voices to say, well, if we're going to build to Justice League, we should do all the big 5. We should do Wonder Woman. We should do The Flash and complete the whole phase 1. And so that's why Flash ended up becoming our premiere. And then Wonder Woman was sort of our midpoint of season 3.
Yeah.
Now, why didn't we do Aquaman?
That's a good question. I'll say this. I thought that the Jason Momoa Aquaman movie was super enjoyable and was so stuffed full of different story elements. I was a little bit thrown on like, how do we do a take better than that? Because I think what they did with Momoa is kind of what we do on Reboot It, right? It's a little bit like, what is the essence of this thing that we can completely remix and sort of make stronger in the remix? Because that Aquaman has no real precedent in comics. So I don't know. Also, for me personally, there's a little too much magic in Aquaman, the undersea kingdom and mer people, and it creates a story world that becomes more problematic. And I will say one of the interesting things about the Snyder Cut was that they fully leaned into tribes of men, Amazons, Atlanteans, the idea that like the DC world does essentially have kind of a Lord of the Ringsian backstory. That was just something that number one, because they already kind of did it in Justice League, and number two, because I just have that aversion. That wasn't sort of a story that I wanted to tackle, which probably means we should have done it, but we chickened out.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing on Reboot It that we got to learn is like, what are the ones that are like, that's stupid, don't do it, and what are the ones that's stupid, what a challenge. If we could just have a scale to weigh things on that would always tell you if one was one or the other, that would be ideal.
Yeah, like if instead of doing Twilight, we had done Willow.
Okay.
Well, I mean, one's got magic in it. The other one's got magic. That's my comparison. That's it.
Fair enough. Well, Ron, before you jump into the pitch, can we just say Matthew Dawson, big love, just finished the Hack Snyder Justice League. First of all, I don't like that's a Donald Trumpian thing to do. We don't need to do the disparaging nicknames. Anyway, just finished the Hack Snyder Justice League. This would have made a much better story. That you are a gentleman and a scholar for. Just lay off the hacky nicknames. That's all.
Well, I like hacky nicknames, so
Well,
no,
whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's interesting to quickly look at where we started with this episode, I think, because this is real. When producer Bill asked what we each thought audiences would want out of this movie, these were our answers. Billy said we had to break the trope of one super powerful big bad with his nameless cannon fodder army. Yep, we did it. I wanted us to build on our individual DC reboots with trickery, surprises, and the characters beating each other up. Got all that. Bam. Ed wanted the audience to finally see Lex Luthor masterminding a plan that brought other powerhouses together against the League. We turned it on its head, but that is the first act of our pitch. And Bill did not, under any circumstances, want us to remix stories from other Justice League media, be it the cartoons, Smallville, or the Arrowverse. He did not want us to do a big screen rehash, and we succeeded there too. How do you guys feel about that?
That was something that really caught me off guard when I rewatched this. Like, for as long and tortured a path as it was to get to the final pitch, like everything that we brought up at minute 10, like at the very beginning of the episode, guided where we ended up with this episode. And I think that speaks to, like, we didn't go down all these tangents because we weren't thinking clearly. It's because we were thinking very clearly. And so we were exploring all possible options, but we sort of had these locuses of true north to point us back to the right direction, which is where we ended up.
Ditto.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. Yeah. I do feel like I also said something about saving people was important.
You always say something about saving people. Our movie could be
always
about Nexus, the guy who flies through space and kills people. You'd be like, but how many people does he save?
Hey, if you're killing people, you might as well be saving people with the sweet kills. You know what I'm saying?
People in the chat, that Highlander reboot, stay tuned. Season 4 coming up. You never know.
Yeah, it could happen. Absolutely. So let's get to this pitch, huh? So bear with me. It's a long one. So here we go.
Buckle in. Get your beverage. Here we go.
That's right. Early in Act 1, we reestablished that after the Court of Owls, Batman's suspicious of everybody and everything. Superman struggles with Brainiac's message that humanity is inherently doomed. Wonder Woman grapples with her rediscovered life and role as a divine protector. And Flash is still on the run in hiding, a victim of terrible injustice. A fugitive Lex Luthor tracks down Flash and convinces him of the movie's thesis: a world of superpowered heroes is not a just world. Lex Luthor, desperate to return the world to how he thinks it should be, has built a time machine, but he can't turn it on. There's only one energy source on Earth powerful enough to charge it: the Flash. By minute 20 of this movie, Luthor has convinced Barry Allen to give him his ultimate victory. They turn on the time machine, and everything immediately spins out of control. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Flash walk out of the machine, but they are not our heroes. This is a team of grizzled replacements from the future. A dark Superman played by John Hamm, a middle-aged Cassandra Cain in the Batman Beyond suit played by Zhang Ziyi, a one-eyed Big Barda in a modified Wonder Woman suit played again by Rosario Dawson, and a mysterious yellow-suited bloodthirsty Flash played by Michael Ealy. This is the Justice Legion. They say they are here to fix the world. Our Superman arrives. He's been 2 steps behind Luthor, but in a jaw-dropping sequence, future Superman and future Barda nearly kill Superman. Their fighting techniques are polished and devastating. An exhausted Flash grabs Superman and barely escapes. Reverse Flash gives chase while the others execute a plan with military precision. Cassandra infiltrates the Batcave, easily bests Batman, and takes him hostage. Robin flees unseen. Superham and Barda kick down the doors of the UN and declare the Earth to be under their control. Their justification is simple. They are from the future. Once the world puts its trust in superhumans, it is doomed. They have come to make things right. This would then escalate into a fight with Wonder Woman until the conflict is stopped by Green Lantern Sinestro. A time breach is one of the most dangerous events in the universe. Because of it, the Green Lanterns quarantine the Earth. The Justice Legion stands down, seemingly to argue their case. We catch our breath with our heroes. Robin cleverly tracks down Superman and Flash and attempt to rally a counterattack. They learn he has some secret way of tracking the captured Batman. In captivity, Batman is finessing information out of his captors. Among the Lanterns, Jon Stewart and Kyle Rayner don't trust Sinestro's contempt for humanity. With Kyle's newfound confidence and Jon's rekindled faith in humankind, we set them up to become the inspiration and mentor respectively for the fledgling League. They requisition Wonder Woman to interrogate her over what's happened. They know they're missing something. Soon, the Leaguers get together. The Lantern's knowledge of the universe, Wonder Woman's knowledge of Barda and Flash, Superman and Robin's first-hand experience with the Legion allowed them to formulate a plan. First, They rescue Batman for his intel. Then they retake Earth. But the Justice Legion have a secret plan. They are after a Green Lantern ring. As the League and Batman make good on his escape, the Legion ambushes Sinestro. They steal his ring and set across the galaxy for their ultimate prize, access to the full power of the central battery on Oa. The newly united League has the stakes laid out by Denzel John Stewart. This is for the fate of the universe. They give chase. In a universe spanning Act 3, we see Oa for the first time. We discover the Justice Legion need the power battery to save their timeline. Our Justice League, their predecessors, failed the future. Superham or Barda says the core is gone. The gods are dead. There is something more dangerous than you can possibly imagine that will kill everything, and right now we can't win. Give us that power battery or your universe dies in less than 50 years. And Superman replies, no. The fight tears across Oa until finally Superman is face to face with future Superman. He asks him, how many people will you kill to fix things? This begins a conversation where it is revealed that John Hamm is Superman's bereaved son. He tells Superman, you couldn't save any of us. You don't know what we're facing. And rather than continue with the fight, our Superman rests a hand on his shoulder and says, then tell me. A gesture of compassion and patience within the barrage of life or death struggle. Tell me what you need from me. I promise I will not let your future happen. Together, the Supermen end the fight. Off camera, it's clear the Legion basically tell our heroes to become the Justice League. We may or may not tease the huge threat that ravages their world, which now becomes a sword of, I always say this word wrong, Damocles, hanging over our story universe. Will this bleak future come to pass? And finally, the Flash powers up the time machine one more time. The Justice Legion steps back into the time vortex, not knowing what their future will be when they get there. The ultimate leap of faith in our heroes. In the afterglow, Superman reiterates, now we become what they need us to be. The Justice League is born. In the denouement, Superman reunites with Lois, Bruce Wayne reviews Barry Allen's case file, Wonder Woman bids farewell to the lanterns and stares pensively at the stars. And Luthor lies in a maximum security prison, where Reverse Flash reveals he has abandoned his trip home. He does not trust the League at all, and he has another ally who feels the same, Sinestro. Maybe together they can change the future for the better. Cast: Clark Kent, Adam Driver. Oh yeah. Lois Lane, Saoirse Ronan. Thank you for the pronunciation for that, Bill.
You're welcome.
Lex Luthor, Chris Evans, Batman, Ryan Gosling, Robin, Miles Brown from Blackish. Jon Stewart as the grizzled mentor to the whole League, Denzel Washington. Kyle Rayner, Nat Wolff, Wonder Woman, Gemma Arterton. The Flash, Jake McDornan from Limitless. Yes. Future Superman, John Hamm in Baby Driver mode. Cassandra Cain, Zhang Ziyi. Wonder Barda, Rosario Dawson. Reverse Flash, Michael Ealy. And Sinestro, I don't know, Fassbender, Mark Strong, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. To direct, we were so exhausted that we all just agreed Martin McDonough, Alex Garland, Park Chan-wook, and Rick Famuyiwa were all equally good choices. So, yeah, on this day, I think we all felt pretty great about how this one turned out. Is that still true? And does it still hold up?
Well, I want to jump in here. I think when you lay it all out, it does check all the boxes and stuff. There are some, it's hard in a synopsis to tell exactly, besides being captured, what Batman is doing and how to tell exactly what Lex Luthor does after he fails in the first act. Like after he opens the portal and all these dudes come through, like what does he do from that point? And there's all sorts of places you can go with that. But again, this is a pitch, not a screenplay. And that I think that's interesting to put the elements in there. And especially in the denouement, he is now in a greater position to win. He has a Flash from the future, and he has a disgraced Green Lantern. I think that's a nice bit of building blocks for the League of Doom or whatever. So
that was something that I feel like we kept sort of skirting around, but it was something that I definitely had seized on by the end of the episode. Like, this is a great origin of the Justice League, but if we do it right in the 70-page treatment, as opposed to like the 2-page treatment that Ron just read, you could really thread through sort of a surreptitious origin of the Legion of Doom as well. Right. Yeah. And it's sort of all the fallout of the origin of the Justice League just sort of comes together as the Legion of Doom. And, you know, rather than just sort of having a random post-credit sequence of Lex Luthor on a yacht, we are actually giving the Legion of Doom both a modus operandi and like reasons to get together in this movie, which is kind of awesome.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'll say this too, to Ed's point about, you know, it's a pitch, not a screenplay. Like, the reason the pitch even was so much longer than a lot of the other pitches that we've come up with is because we are dealing with 8 main characters, if you include Luthor, and then a villain team that all has their own backstory as well. And so just trying to lay out the plot beats that are going to service all the characters equally is a pretty Herculean task. And I definitely think that once we expand it from, you know, this initial 2 pages, this would turn into something pretty special, because I do think that on the bare bones level, it, you know, everybody is serviced, and now it's time to play and give them all even better moments.
Yeah, I just want to give Sue some props for that. We said it during the episode too. It gives the League a much better reason for existing than the Saturday morning cartoon. Being evil is fun together. That's true, and it's also one of these things where I think I said something like it in one of the episodes about like joining the Legion of Doom makes so much sense now. You've seen these super dorks all get together and smash stuff and run across the universe and get back faster than light in some kind of way. These guys are too powerful to be stopped, and they want to make a base in space that they can kick it at. No, screw these guys. You know,
well, also, and if you do this right, Lex Luthor, you can almost, it's again one of those things where like some people understood the Thanos thing. They're kind of messed up, but they kind of get it. You know what I mean? And I think with Lex Luthor, if you do this right, you can understand why he's doing what he's doing. You can set that up where it's like you can see him thinking that he is humanity's best hope to continue being humanity, but also see him as a bad guy at the same time. And I think that that's important in that situation.
We threaded that needle because here's the reality coming out of this movie. You have future versions of all these heroes who came back and said, these guys screwed up the future. You're all going to die. And so the resolution of our movie is the heroes sort of regrouping and being like, we can't let that come to pass. But from sort of the human bystander standpoint, of course your reaction is going to be, we need to get rid of all these guys. Like, why? We can't put any trust in them. Like, we have to go after them. And that is what, maybe not everybody, but that is certainly the point of view that Luthor would have. And he's justified for having it, while also not encouraging the audience to share that viewpoint, because the audience is privy to the way that the conflict was resolved, which is very much the heroes going, we are going to be extra vigilant with this weird time paradox information we now have, because we don't want this to happen to all the people. There's Ron saving people, right? Like, we are here in service of this world, and there's no two ways around it. And so that's such a great conflict, because Luthor goes, no, you're going to murder the world. They go, no, we have the special knowledge to be in service of the world, and they're both right. So what a tasty conflict moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So should we get to some fan comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. We're going to look at some of the comments from you guys, the Rebooted community. The response to this episode was almost completely positive, and we really appreciate that, especially for us as much work as we put into this one. Here's a few of the best comments. Let me get to them here. We'll start with Moramoth Hans. He said, damn, you guys pulled out all the stops with the recap and the rewind.
I'll just say, as the person who edited, I don't know if you guys remember our big DCEU recap, but damn, did I have some fun doing that. Because like, there's just something, putting the imagery together and choosing the music. Like, you're obviously not giving anybody a movie or even a trailer with what we did, but it at least communicated the vibe. And I feel like one of the things that we've been able to really build in our DC reboots is a vibe. And it's this sort of like gonzo sci-fi adventure, fast-paced, no time to breathe, not slow-mo Durmanstrong vibe. And so being able to just, achieve that a little bit in an actual audio-visual presentation was pretty gratifying.
Yeah, and I liked it because it really, obviously, not to belabor the point, but it really set up where the characters were entering into the thing. I mean, that's what a recap is supposed to do, but a recap can also just be a dry statement of fact of what they did. It was better than that. It really showed where they were at emotionally and in the universe, if that makes any sense. These people's place in the universe was firmly established by the tone and the way that it was cut together. So that was so important in a recap.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Cool. And then we had Jamelin Parks. He said, "Whew, that was a lot to digest. I'm so glad you guys let it play out. It was a weird, twisty road, but you arrived at something interesting. I did not love the idea of the future doppelgangers initially. However, I think you pulled it off. I also appreciate the threads that you set into motion. I will say I'm so glad you addressed the big bad with the faceless army of fodder villains trope. I'm so over that."
Yeah,
that was echoed in the comments by Boo Brady, who also said, definitely I think Billy's push to have each leaguer face a rival and not the league against one person in their army. That was Billy, and we were all very much on board.
Yeah, and it put it in a place that I could contribute to the story, in that you know me, I like the mano a mano of stuff. I like you have to face your as your word, Bill, your apotheosis, like you having to face the best iteration of the idea of what you are. Like if I had to fight a dude 100 pounds lighter, me in my football days, no glasses, hair, and he knows kung fu, that's a fight that I'm unlikely to win. And we're putting the Justice League in that situation. That's amazing. And Batman getting beaten up by like a 50-year-old or 42-year-old woman is awesome. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
No, it is. There's, that's the thing that I feel like we came to really late in the pitch, but also almost in retrospect, like you want to just suffuse it through the whole thing, is this generational aspect. This idea that like these aren't just the Earth 3, mustache mirrorverse versions of our heroes. These are literally their children and successors. And it's their children and successors with a huge chip on their shoulder going, you screwed up the world. Like there's so much pathos to that. I mean, it's literally like Batman is face to face with Cassandra Cain, who is someone he hasn't even met yet, but who's telling him, you find me, you train me, you give me something to believe in, you set my life on a path that has purpose, and then you fail. And again, we didn't come up with what the failure means. That's something we would have to build in writing the script. But again, there's power to that. And just the idea that like, John Hamm playing Superman's son, the idea of saying like, you were never, Superman's whole bag in this universe, in this movie is like, I am going to make myself the thing that staves off Armageddon. Like he's got Brainiac in his Solo movie telling him it is a mathematical certainty that the human race will destroy itself. And he makes the conscious decision, I will be the unknown variable. And he carries that proudly because that is the life of service to which he's going to devote himself. And then his own son shows up to go, you didn't do it. Like there's, this is not necessarily a light, happy movie. Like there is some stuff that they're going to have to grapple with, but the internal politics of it, the philosophical struggle of it is hopeful and meaningful. And to Ed's point, collectivist. It's about what can I do for the people around me? And that, I think, distinguishes it from some other media.
Yeah. Oh, well, and this actually goes perfect with what Andrew Peters just said then. Honestly, guys, the fact that mainstream media is trying to get closer to your pitches, like settling a fight with a philosophical debate, is evidence that you are ahead of our times. And I'm going to go ahead and take that compliment and say thank you very much.
And it's also a resurgence of that, though. Like the 90s, mid 90s, the biggest stuff on TV, especially in syndication, was Star Trek. And that was full of people like, yeah, they had photon torpedoes sometimes, but a lot of times it was, you can't be a vampire and eat my crew, but I will give you another energy source and I will learn your language. And there was a lot of that going on. So it's just, I hope that it's a continuous cycle and a wave that's coming back. Doctor Strange ended in very much that way. It's not eschewing pyrotechnics, because I would argue that both of those products have a lot of pyrotechnics. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty of what makes a story work, a lot of times you have to slow it down, man, and give us a damn scene. It is still drama.
Yeah, it doesn't mean there can't be a fight scene before it.
But whether it's a debate or whether it's punching in the face, this is just another hard and fast rule of cinema. One person versus one, maybe two other people is just always going to hit harder than one person versus an armada, because then it's impersonal. Personal is always better.
Well, it's like those fight scenes with Bruce Lee. Do you like the fight scene where he takes on the whole class, or do you like the Chuck Norris fight scene? Do you like the end boss fight scenes? Because I'll tell you what you like. You like the end boss fight scenes.
Yeah.
I just want to give some Star Trek love to Charles Clark, where he goes, Temba, his arms wide. That's a Star Trek reference. They follow this planet. And these dudes, Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. There you go.
While we're checking in on the chat, I just want to address this. Tani Sequoia, where is Billy? Ron mentioned at the top, Billy bowed out of this one because he's had all the Justice League talk he could handle. So I don't think it has anything to do with our pitch. Billy was actually super jazzed about where this pitch ended. I think he just didn't want to touch any Snyder Cut talk with a 10-foot pole. And here I am as producer Cut Snyder, cinematic genius.
Dude, oh god, I could just see you just snapping the necks on all your action figures. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, and I think Suze is also talking about the future in this comment as well. Appreciated the improved self-awareness and casting on several dimensions of bias this go around. Keep it up.
I'll jump on that just because Bill came up with, like, I swear to God, though, I was thinking Cassandra Cain, and I love her so much, but my love of her is very, very, very well documented and could be seen as some more manic blow pitching. You know what I mean? So I just let it be that, like, somebody cooler than Terry from Batman Beyond, somebody cooler than that, not a clone, not any of that crap, somebody cooler than that. I don't give a damn if it's Nightwing, I don't give, whatever, somebody cooler than that in a futuristic suit. And Bill comes swinging through the window and says, it should be Cassandra Cain. And then I think I said, she should be like 50, or maybe he said it, but the bottom line is, yeah, 50-year-old Cassandra Cain whooping Batman's ass, and not from future technology. She is everything he is with better tools, not a super suit, a suit that does what she wants. You know what I mean? It was just such a fine point to me. It wasn't, she didn't put on an onboard computer to beat up Batman. Her skills that Batman gave her beat up Batman. And she also happened to be wearing the sickest Batman suit ever. Oh, it sent me over the moon. And Batman's
heart.
Dude, and Batman being used to his best ability. One of the things in Snyder Cut, I don't want to go back to that, but one of the worst things in the Snyder Cut is, with 2 extra hours of runtime, you still couldn't figure out nothing better for Batman to do except shoot people in the head and shoot people with his car and shoot people with this and shoot people with that. And it just, dude, our Batman, at least if he is going to be sidelined for part of the movie, he's gathering information. He's doing what he can because he's intellectual. And I would also say, don't you think maybe when the people come through the portal in Luthor's base, I think there's a period of the movie where Luthor and Batman are chained up together in the future people's prison.
Ooh, I love that.
I think there's a section of the movie that's that, and having to, not necessarily work together, but at least, like, look, we got to get out of here. And maybe there's an abortive attempt to escape. Maybe there's a little section of that where, I don't know. Or maybe when Batman escapes, he goes, we can't leave him with them, and maybe he does. He ends up having to or something. But I think that's interesting.
No, 100%. Can I just jump on a couple comments over here? First of all, Suze Vera, Snyder sounds nothing like that. That's not my Zack Snyder impression. That's my cut Snyder producer character. I am, however, working on a Zack Snyder impression because there's some interesting things that are going to be happening with Rebooted in season 4. So there's a little tease for that. And then Andrew Peters, pretty sure Bill offered the age as a solution to you not wanting to do Cassandra another disservice after Birds of Prey. I think you're right. And also, Andrew Peters, you got a mind like a steel trap, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is what was said, though. Yeah, I didn't want to do her bad. Yeah, that's.
And then Suze Vera following up on her own comment here that we just were addressing. I remember you didn't say, so who's our female lead after 50 minutes of crafting a pitch with no female characters? And that was so much better. You're not wrong.
Yeah, as we decide who's going to be the janitor on this program, who's the woman? It's like, oh God. Yeah, I have hated the episodes where that ended up happening. So
we have done that.
This has a good and this has reasonable women leads as well. You know, her again, like I said in the episode, I hate to keep stroking this point, but Cassandra being his heir means a lot of stuff went wrong. He adopted 4 or 5 black-haired white boys, and they're all dead or indisposed, and Cassandra's the only one powerful enough or alive enough or a survivor enough. I posit that future got pretty bad, and all this, hey buddy, I'm gonna do a little karate chop to your neck and wrap you up, and some police are gonna come get you. That's over. And Cassandra Cain's future is awful, and they're just ninjas in the streets. And that world was, ironically enough, Batman and his whole ethos wasn't ready for that world. And she was the only one that survived because she was willing to bend that prime directive in order to survive. And that's why she's so hard. And that's why she hits Batman in our movie with like 5 moves that should kill somebody. You know what I mean? It's just like, dude, she's not playing.
Well, I mean, we never really got into it, but my headcanon about like what this whole future problem was essentially that like the Justice League never formed. And maybe this is just me, but my feeling was that like all the heroes went on to essentially become Zack Snyder versions of the heroes. So you got a Batman who like only cares about Gotham, but he's just murdering people left and right, and that's just escalating everything. You got a Superman who never really comes to terms with his own personality and mission, and so like he's having city-destroying fights with all these guys. And so eventually like things just become unstable on Earth. And whether it's a resurged Darkseid, whether it's Magadon, the anti-sun from Grant Morrison's World War III run in JLA, whether it's something that we just invent for the movie, at some point, Earth becomes sort of a blighted dystopia, and then this other threat arrives, and they were never united enough to fight it. And so all these heirs, you know, all have sort of this harder, murderous edge, because it's like, this is what you gave me to work with. And like now we're so desperate to even survive. We're doing this last ditch gambit. So I think that applies across the board, but that I do think the Cassandra Cain one is particularly juicy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to point out that I think this is a thing that we talk about, all 4 of us, a lot, and a thing we all care about. And I think that comes out in our stories a lot, is that we really do think that in the world, for things to get better, we all have to come together and trust and love people, even of things we don't understand. Even when we disagree with people, we can disagree with people and not try to destroy them. You know, it's I think when you see these heroes coming together in one world, success can happen. Whereas in the other world where they don't come together, success can't happen. And there's nothing but failure when you try to be an individual all of the time. I am so anti Ayn Rand that you could not, like, I mean, for me, that's one of the things I really enjoyed about how this all came together, and how a lot of our stuff that is the best of our stuff comes together is something that has a theme of people coming together to work and love. And I think that that's one of the best things that we've got going for us as people, honestly.
Well, even our bad
friends,
dude. Thank you, man. And even our bad guys had to work together. Our bad guys are a team that loves each other, that is on a mission to basically they are the team from the future. Kyle Reese themselves. I don't think it's just that they know that they have to come here now. Billy, that team knows that they have to come to our time now, but they don't know that they're going to succeed. Their very existence means they may not have succeeded. You know what I mean? So like them coming back on this faith trip to try to solve everything means that in that future they are kind of they are still a Justice League, but they just get their point is so perverted, using the Justice League family ethos to cover up a perverted thing that they're going to do in the past. That's kind of they just went a little wrong. I love that, man. I love that so much more than Steppenwolf or Darkseid or anything.
No, man, there is a powerful, again, it's like it's complex the way that we're using this whole future versions thing. I think I don't know, it excites me. I feel like I wish we could make this movie.
I know, me too. Let's get into another comment here. We got Ronnie B. Good. Cracking episode. I love when people say cracking. I wonder if he's from Britain. I love seeing how so many plot ideas are discussed and reworked or discarded to result in the final pitch. Also, great having John Peters' time travel note actually be not only useful, but pivotal. The ticking clock element of Rebooted makes watching it live so much fun to see if the gang can crack the plot of such a massive movie in a couple of hours, when such things usually take months, if not years. Given all the moving parts and all the previous JL stories and comics and on-screen, achieving Reboot by the end of the episode with a pitch that feels fresh, exciting, and substantial seems kind of miraculous. Lastly, for me, the most exciting part of this idea would be getting to see how the descendants or successors making up the Justice Legion might confront their present-day counterparts with a mixture of reverence and disappointment. Such juicy, dramatic possibilities.
Yeah.
That last part was kind of what we were just saying. I do think it's interesting talking about the time travel element. I almost forgot that was the Peters mandate. He essentially came in and was like, well, Avengers Endgame is the biggest movie of all time, so just do that. And so he said that we had to do time travel. It 100% elevated this pitch, even though it came from that weird hack place. And also, we should acknowledge, I don't know that we knew this at the time, but I believe the whole Zack Snyder Justice League 3-part movie pitch also involved things going horribly wrong and them having to time travel back to warn their previous selves. Mm-hmm. But again, the dynamic of how that story element is used is so different than what we did here. And what we did here is so different than what they did in Endgame. So just because you use the trope doesn't mean that you're, number one, using it correctly, or number two, really aping something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I want to, I'm kind of going to touch on Boo Brady's comment. Just the thing about the Flash in this movie that I found so excellent was not only does our Flash see that he's actually going to be a lineage of superhero in the future, which was not on any level, a given the situation we put him in. That's number one. But number two, he's too green to not know that he's been used by Lex Luthor. He doesn't know enough about the world to know that Lex Luthor is a bad guy. And even if he did, technically he thinks he might be a bad guy or at best a vigilante in the situation that we have him in. It's just like, it's very interesting that like it isn't just whatever their relationships are in the comics. And it isn't us wildly throwing them out. It's us trying to graduate them, if that makes any sense.
I know, I think it does completely. And I think that I forget who came up with this, Ed. It might have been you, or it might have been you, Ron. Like, just making the connection of the Flash is still a fugitive in our world, isn't he? And Lex Luthor might need the Flash for some things. And Lex Luthor is in a perfect place to just sort of whisper sweet nothings into the Flash's ear and manipulate him, not because the Flash is dumb or easily manipulated, but because Lex Luthor is really good at that. And our stories have put them in a position where that is a logical thing that could happen. It was just a smart thing to seize on.
Yeah, that was me for once. Woo!
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Every once in a while, pull out something smart. I could do it. Let's check out James' hand, everybody. James Hand said, late to the party on this one, but this was a great episode. I kind of hate the Peterson interludes because it can be derailing to the whole thing. Keen for the RDCEU phase 2.
Oh shit! That's where we have to introduce Aquaman and a bunch of stuff.
Yep. We'll do. Oh
Cyborg.
man, I was trying to come up with like some abortive '90s DC property, but they really didn't do any. That's kind of crazy. Maybe that's like Aquaman and Supergirl that we reboot in DCEU Phase 2.
I'd rather redo Power Girl, but anyway.
I agree.
Oh really, Ed? You'd rather redo Power Girl? Anyway,
excuse me, Power Woman.
Power Woman. Absolutely. All right, so let's get on to this next one. We got Alex Bianchini. And I'm sitting here wondering why Booster Gold never got mentioned in the time travel brainstorm. And Bill says...
Because he sucks. That's all.
Do you want to expand upon that? Why does he suck?
Because he's, listen, guys, if you like Deadpool style characters who only exist to crack jokes, fine. Booster Gold somehow went from being a character who only existed to crack jokes with sort of a bizarre, over the top backstory that made him sort of a sad sack loser, which is fine. He's since been graduated into somehow like the DC icon for time travel. Number one, DC has so many better characters who can time travel. Number two, Booster Gold's whole thing is how badly he screws up everything, which is fine. But like in a movie where the time travel is already super screwed up, what is Booster Gold going to add to this? Like, do we really need somebody to show up and be like, guys, I'm a janitor from the future who stole a time travel device. Let me give you a MacGuffin that might help you. Like, I don't know, man. And if you're going to graduate Booster Gold into being something a little bit more redeeming from a story standpoint, then you also kind of have to make the movie about him. Like, he has to really have a character arc. Like, you have to justify why this random dude from the future is going to show up and be important to the plot after we spent so many movies with these other characters, all of which is just too much heavy lifting. Like, none of that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just Booster Gold comes bopping through the future like, hey, guys, I come for the future. And then in his time wake are these assassins. And he's like, wait a minute, these guys hitched a ride. I'm like, oh, no. And he's watching Batman get beat up. That's the movie that you want. And it's like, no, I don't want to see that. I want it to be part of the villain's plan. I want it to have a more portentous meaning but again, it just shows you there's only so many of these things that you can juggle, because in the Justice League movie that we got, Flash was a time travel person. Him embracing his power was very significant. In our movie, it's that way, but just different. It's through the mirror darkly or whatever, that it's different. So I like the fact that
it is, but also like you could look at the way that they used it in the Snyder Cut, not to belabor this point, but it was essentially like from the jump, Flash knew he could travel back in time. He was just like, I probably shouldn't. And then the other characters were like, no, you should. And then he did, and it all worked out. So I don't know what the story is there, but in our movie, Flash doesn't know he could do that. Lex Luthor builds the thing that even allows him to do that. He starts thinking, oh, this might be a good thing because it'll allow me to fix the problems in my life. And then it goes horribly wrong, and he needs to learn going back in time to fix the problems in your life is not a viable solution. Oh, that's a story. So, compare and contrast. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, a couple people have a couple ideas that I'm pretty sure you guys will hate.
Uh-oh.
Especially Ed. RCDEU could be more magical. Shazam, Aquaman, Raven, Zatanna, etc.
Ed's having a stroke. Call 911.
We'll have Constantine in there too.
That ripped through my body. I think I'm gonna need some attention after this. Look. If I have anything to say about it, it won't. If I'm overpowered by this Legion of Doom of magic likers, then it'll happen. I don't see any reason for that. I think it's one of the weaker aspects of the DC universe. I think we need to get a lot of these other characters right first. There's a lot of other characters in DC that still need the rebooted touch if we're going to be ego driven, you know what's about it. So I think there's a few of them I would like to try to tackle before we took on Dr. Fate, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we got another, this is our last comment from Ultimate QB Fox. I would much rather take the time to get something great than rush to completion with mediocrity. It's true for the creative process on a real movie, and it's true for these episodes. Whatever it takes to get to something legitimately compelling, that's what I'm interested in watching. I'd much rather watch 2 hours to discover something awesome than waste 1 hour on something nobody's happy with that wasn't even interesting, watching it implode. Happy to hear Ed say the same. Needless to say, this kicked ass. Yeah, sometimes you got to take your time. And like, look, you know, in the end, we loved this, how this went, but I think we can all agree that in the writing process of really making a movie, some of this would probably change. We'd find out that this idea didn't go with the theme as well as we would like, and we'd add something else in or take something else out. I mean, that's how it works, especially when you're making a movie, right?
Look, go ahead, Ed. You got way more eloquence on this subject than me.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think what was the question? No. I really do think that when you look at how many threads there are, and when you do this without giving too much short shrift to stuff, and when we're thinking about trying to make an actual pitch, I think that is where you can go one of two ways. You can go expediency and get it done. And we've just had such bad experiences with expediency. We've had bad experiences with feeling as though we've wasted 45 minutes. So it's that sunk cost fallacy kicks in, right? You start going, oh, we've expended this much time, so we have to rush to complete it to make sure that our time was well spent. When in actuality, what you probably need to do is dump more time into it to get it right. And then you won't be feeling so bad about wasting your time. You'll have spent more time, but you won't feel as bad about wasting it. Because we have definitely cut some episodes short trying to get it done, and they suck. Yeah. And it's a big problem. So I'm glad that we didn't fold to that. I'm glad that the eyes of the people didn't push us into just, oh yeah, the Green Lantern, they're pulling a heist, and we can have a bunch of shots of Superman fighting Green Lanterns. You mean Superman punching their faces off and smashing their stupid constructs? No. You know what I mean? I'm so glad we didn't capitulate to that, because it just wasn't good enough. That wasn't good enough. It was good enough to be an element. You know what I mean? It was good enough to be an element. We had to figure out how to push it in there. We had to figure out how to seize on Flash's uncertainty. Flash's uncertainty in the Justice League that the Snyder Cut is not interesting. His uncertainty is not interesting in that movie. His uncertainty in our movie causes the movie. You know what I'm saying? There's a qualitative difference in these things, is all I'm saying.
And I love also that by bringing in the Green Lantern Corps, we make it look like the Green Lantern Corps are super, super tough. And they are, because the old future heroes step down because they're so intimidated by the Green Lantern Corps.
Or are they?
Or are they? And we get a trick out of it. We get that twist. And I think that's one of the things that's hard when you're making superhero movies nowadays, is putting in a good twist. Like, you know, I mean, I know it's a cheesy thing, but when Cap picks up Thor's hammer and it was hinted at in Ultron, it's a big deal because it was slightly hinted at, but it was also still a surprise. Like, and I'm just using that as an easy example, but that's what I'm talking about. Is
just one real quick thing that just popped into my mind. Each of the characters comes into our movie still in their movie. Like Wonder Woman deals with the larger cosmic stuff, the weird god stuff of the stuff. Superman deals with some of the sci-fi angles of it, of his son in the future and stuff. And our present Green Lantern, seeing their whole team come and being sort of like, my boys are coming to beat you guys up, but I don't even know you guys, but I think you're kind of cool. I don't know if the situation is really what we're, that sort of, and our Green Lanterns bring their heist movie ethos into this movie, i.e. the Green Lanterns are an object of a heist, but still the heist angle, the police angle, somebody is stealing something from the evidence room of the cosmic cops. That's our movie. That's interesting.
No, dude, I do think there's something interesting to that, in that, the Batman movie we pitched was a conspiracy movie. The Green Lantern movie we pitched was a heist movie. The Superman movie we pitched was actually quite grounded. It was sort of like Superman and Lois trying to put together all this crazy sci-fi stuff that was going on. Mm-hmm. And then the Wonder Woman or the Flash movie was a fugitive on the run movie. And the Wonder Woman movie was like realizing who I am, reclaiming my birthright type of thing. There are elements of all that in this Justice League movie, which is, again, something we couldn't have gotten to if we took an hour on it. We just couldn't. We couldn't have gotten to, like, what is this melange of all these characters' strengths, struggles, and conflicts all in one, in a way that doesn't feel like peanut butter and ham. It's like, it feels like something that fits together. It just took a while. And I personally, I like that we are transparent about that creative process. I like that we have episodes where we don't achieve reboot. I like these rewinds allowing us to revisit, like, look, sometimes this is messy. Sometimes we don't have the greatest ideas. Sometimes it takes a month to go, oh my God, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Like, that transparency helps dispel the myth that these things are created by some elevated special people sitting in a room who have it all figured out. Like, nothing is. This is the process.
Yeah. I mean, and it's also, I got to tell you guys, when we first started doing Rebooted, you guys know I'm mostly a stand-up comic. And I mostly just love to tell some jokes. I like to make people laugh. That is the thing that I usually like doing. But as we've done this more and more, the more stories we've started putting together, it really makes me want to make something. Like, being with you guys and learning about storytelling and theme and the importance of those things and how great they can be and how much you can touch people, it really makes me want to do that. And I think this is good practice for us. I mean, the show's good and I love entertaining you guys with the show, but I think at some point, I don't see why we can't all four get together and make something cool and original that isn't a reboot and turn it into something, because I just feel like we're learning so much and you guys are so smart already. I'm just excited. This is what's so fun about shows like this. It really gets you, to me, this is what's so fun about this show, is it really gets people pumped, I think, to want to accomplish things and to enjoy stories more. It's just me. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's what one of the things the show has done for me, being on it. So thank you.
Well, no, I just want to echo that point, in that I think the reason why these are good is you have written a novel, Ron. Bill has written multiple screenplays. I've written screenplays. Billy's written screenplays. So it's like, I said it on one of our Patreon episodes, but it's like, just because nobody has made one of these yet doesn't mean that those runestones aren't out there, get rubbed on every day. And these episodes being good are evidence of our story sense that have already been developed. But in doing these, you're right, Ron, our story sense, I think, grows. It embiggens every time we do one of these monumental tasks. It really does. This isn't just an idle thought exercise. We're not playing devil's advocate with the universe. We are, we are trying to accomplish something that are singular pieces of art in their way.
Absolutely.
Oh, wait, that wasn't the one. You're not. Well, that's a nice comment, but what I wanted to click on was Ed.
Whatever happened to that comic?
Ed and I announced a comic last summer. Life has gotten in the way. I will say this. I mean, we both still want to do it. I don't talk about my life outside the show much, but I am currently show running an animated series. It's a motion capture animated series using Unreal Engine. And so it is extraordinarily experimental. We are trying to figure out our animation pipeline. it is awesome. It's going to be for preschoolers, so I don't know if anybody who's watching this is super interested, but it's the first in what will hopefully be a series of series. So it's a really big opportunity in my life that I have just been kind of all in on for a while now. And, you know, I'll share more details as it gets going, and maybe when you can watch it on a major streaming service, but can't talk about it right now. That said, that has what has happened to the comic on my end. I just have not had the time to finish it. And the other thing that I think happened with the comic was originally we were sort of branding it with Nerd Goat, which was a show that we have since wrapped up. And so one of the other things is we are looking at our timelines for another good place to launch and another good way to brand sort of mine and Ed's melange of crazy ideas.
And all that said, and last things last, also trying to, like, our Kickstarter, we're not trying to have you pay us to theoretically do anything. We would like to have the product to where you fund us, you get book. You know what I mean? And that's how we're going to do it. So when we do announce our Kickstarter, it will be because we did this book and you will be paying to get it, not the idea of it. I've seen a lot of these Kickstarters where it's like, pay somebody some money and then months and months go by and they could be the greatest creator they want to be. They have a baby, lightning strikes them, whatever. All of a sudden you ain't got no comic book and you're out $25 for a 48-page thing or whatever. We're not doing no jazz like that. So yeah, when we drop our Kickstarter, it'll be because the product is ready.
That's true. I was very gung-ho on let's launch the Kickstarter and use that to motivate us to finish. And Ed was very much like, you don't want to do that. And so we do have disagreements that don't just end up in episodes of Reboot It either. So, you know, we have dynamic lives outside of the scope of this frame here.
Dude, we're arguing. We're like Peter Griffin and that chicken all through the world, all through the world. But in our case, it actually produces good stuff. So.
Yeah.
I
do want to say
yes. The answer to this question is yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I also want to say congratulations, Suze, on shooting the stuff that you've been working on. That is pretty awesome. I'm glad to hear it. So, oh, sorry. I was looking at another thing. I got distracted.
You just went to Dirk Diggler in where Homeboy was throwing the firecrackers. Like you just went to that exact place.
This is hilarious. I kind of wish my girlfriend right now is actually working on something in a different room, but I kind of wish she could have seen that because right now I started reading, and as soon as I start reading, my brain turns off everything else that is going on around me, and I sometimes I'll be reading and she'll be like talking to me and I don't hear it, and then she's like, are you not listening to me? And I'm like, no, I'm reading. I don't know what's happening when I'm reading. And you guys just saw it in real time. So now it's recorded for future proof that I do that way too often. And I'm so sorry, guys, that I did that live while chatting with all of you cool people.
So
wait a minute.
What were you reading?
I was reading this one. Yay, I teach preschool art and have young children myself. And then Backburner is okay. I'm just keen to see your original ideas fully fleshed and finished one day. So
yes.
Well, don't worry, they will be.
Yeah.
And we do
absolutely.
we should say too, like we've got our contingent of diehards that show up for the chat every week, and you guys are awesome, and that is the reason we're doing this. Like, I don't think any of us jumped into this whole enterprise with the idea that we were gonna, be making $1 million off of a YouTube channel. But because we're all creatives and because we all have other projects going on, we love the fact that like we've connected with a community, however big or small it might be, that appreciates our story sensibilities. And so we've all got things that are going on, and we will try to be more communicative in the future about just steering you to where else we're telling stories you might like, because that's the name of the game, honestly.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I think that pretty much wraps up all the comments and all the things. So you guys have spent an hour and 24 minutes with us, and we really appreciate it. We had a great time chatting with you, great time chatting about our longest rebooted every that we've ever done the Justice League. And on behalf of myself, Ed Greer, producer Bill, and Billy Business at home taking care of his adorable child, we want to thank you guys for watching and being part of this really special community we built here. We'll see you all next time. Bye. Producer Cut Snyder has one more thing to say, though.
Guys, just remember, if you don't have a story, kill shots. Kill shots make the people happy. Let's see the blood on the walls. Thanks.
Okay. And with that, I have one thing to say to you guys. Bye.